Okay, so today we're talking about authenticity, finding authenticity. So once the therapeutic process has been started, it will continue if it is not interrupted by interpretations or other types of intellectual defense. The suffering person begins to be articulate and breaks with her former compliant attitudes, but because of her early experience, she cannot believe she is not incurring mortal danger. So this is talking about, like, she starts to break old patterns, but it can feel like she's in danger, the person's in danger, because these defenses were the things that kept her surviving her childhood. So all of the things that we tend to do are connected to a defense or a strategy, a survival strategy in childhood. Okay. The suffering person begins to be articulate and not incurring mortal danger. She feels rejection and punishment when she defends her rights in the present. The patient is surprised by feeling she would rather not have recognized, but now it's too late. Awareness of her own impulses has already been aroused and there's no going back. Now, the once intimidated and silenced child can experience herself in a way she had never before thought possible. And afterwards, she can enjoy the relief of having taken the risk and been true to herself. Right? Whereas she had always despised miserliness, she suddenly catches herself counting up the 2 minutes lost to her session through a telephone call. Whereas she had previously never made demands herself and had always been tireless in fulfilling the demands of others, now she is suddenly furious that her therapist is again going on vacation. Or she's annoyed to see other people waiting outside the consulting room. What can this be? Surely not jealousy. This is an emotion she doesn't know. And yet, what are they doing here? Do others besides me come here? She hadn't realized that before. Right? This is speaking to the idea of, like, whatever the pattern was before, healing can be pretty much directly correlated to, are you doing something new? Right? That's what she's saying here. It doesn't always look the same for everybody. Healing doesn't look the same for everybody. At first, it will be mortifying to see that she is not always good, understanding, tolerant, controlled, and above all, without needs, for these have been the basis of her self-respect. There's a big difference between having ambivalent feelings towards someone as an adult and suddenly experiencing oneself as a 2-year-old being fed by the maid in the kitchen and thinking in despair, why does mom go out every evening? Why does she not take pleasure in me? What is wrong with me that she prefers to go to other people? What can I do to make her stay home? Just don't cry, just don't cry. Peter, as a 2-year-old child, could not have thought in these words, but in the therapeutic session where he experienced this reality, he was both an adult and a toddler and could cry bitterly. It was not a cathartic crying, but rather the integration of his earlier longing for his mother, which until now he had always denied. In the following weeks, Peter went through all the torments of his ambivalence towards his mother, who was a successful pediatrician. Her previously, quote-unquote, frozen, idealized portrait melted into the picture of a woman who had not been able to give her child any continuity in their relationship. I hated those beasts who were constantly sick and always taking you away from me. I hated you because you preferred being with them to being with me. Feelings of helplessness were mingled with long, dammed-up rage against the mother who had not been available to him when he needed her the most. As a result of becoming aware of these feelings, Peter could rid himself of a symptom that had tormented him for a long time. Its point was now easy to understand. His relationship to women changed as his compulsion first to conquer and then to desert them disappeared. Do you see where he's getting that? I want to conquer women and then disappear because he couldn't conquer his mother. He couldn't get his mother to stick around. Right? Peter experienced his early feelings of helplessness, of anger, and of being at the mercy of his mostly absent mother in a manner that he could not previously have remembered. One can only remember that what has been consciously experienced. But the emotional world of a tormented child is itself the result of a selective process that has eliminated the most important elements. These early feelings, joined with the pain of being unable to understand what's going on, which is part of the earliest period of childhood, are consciously experienced for the first time during therapy. Do you see how we are integrating early experiences here? Right? It is like a miracle each time to see how much authenticity and integrity have survived behind dissimulation, denial, and self-alienation, and how they can reappear as soon as the patient finds access to the feelings, and I would say the body sensations of that. Nevertheless, it would be wrong to imply that there is a fully developed true self consciously hidden behind the false self. The important point is that the child does not know what he's hiding. Carl, aged 42, expresses this in the following way. I lived in a glass house into which my mother could look at any time. In a glass house, however, you cannot conceal anything without giving yourself away, except by hiding it under the ground. And then you cannot see it yourself either. I'm going to read that again. I lived in a glass house into which my mother could look at any time. In a glass house, however, you cannot conceal anything without giving yourself away, except by hiding it under the ground. And then you cannot see yourself either. So what he's saying here, right, is I'm living in a glass house and I'm trying to connect with people and I'm trying to be, but I can't do that. I can't be vulnerable without giving everything away. And then I take that authenticity and I take that vulnerability and I bury it into the ground where now I can't even see it anymore either. Right? An adult can be fully aware of his feelings only if he had caring parents or caregivers. So those of you who are working through complex trauma who didn't have caring parents or caregivers, and you are starting to feel your feelings for the first time, you're becoming emotionally available to yourself. That's a huge accomplishment, right? People who were abused and neglected in childhood are missing this capacity and are therefore never overtaken by unexpected emotions. Makes sense, right? They will admit only those feelings that are accepted and approved by their inner censor, who is their parent's heir. Okay, the inner censor is an internalized part that took on the way that your parent treated you, and now it lives inside of you, rent-free, telling you what to do every day. In psychoanalysis, we would call this like the ego, or the super ego. Sorry, the super ego. Okay, that's like the overbearing. I'm going to tell you this is how we're going to do this. Yeah, it's an internalized part. Depression and a sense of inner emptiness are the price they must pay for this control. This is when you can't selectively numb. You cannot selectively numb. Depression and a sense of inner emptiness are the price they must pay for controlling their emotions and never feeling their emotions. The true self cannot communicate because it has remained unconscious and it's exiled and therefore underdeveloped in its inner prison. The company of prison warders does not encourage lively development. It's only after it is liberated that the self begins to be articulate, to grow and develop its creativity. This is what's missing in narcissistic, emotionally immature people, is this sense of self. You hear this? We're building a sense of self when we learn how to connect with our emotions, connect to our sensations, and the things that we haven't wanted to feel that we buried in the ground. It is only after it is liberated that the self begins to be articulate, to grow, and to develop its creativity. Where there had been only fearful emptiness, or equally frightening, grandiose fantasies, an unexpected wealth of vitality is now discovered. This is what's on the other side of trauma. Vitality that you didn't know existed. This is not a homecoming, since this home has never before existed. It is the creation of home. It's the creation of home. It's coming home to yourself. It's on page 19 of Drama of the Gifted Child. I love that. Coming home to the self. You are creating a home for yourself. All right, everybody. If you're in the membership, stick around. We'll do a practice. And if you want to join the membership, you can just comment practice below on any of my posts and we'll send you the information. See you there.